We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Nepal lifts social media ban after protests leave 19 dead. Australia, Finland, France, Japan, South Korea, UK and US call for restraint. UN calls for probe. French Prime Minister Francois Bayrou will tender his resignation today after Parliament ousted him. Macron, under pressure to resign, will appoint successor soon. All members of India's Parliament will vote today to elect the next Vice President, election being held between NDA's CP Radhakrishnan and opposition's Sudarshan Reddy. Results expected later today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will review the flood situation in Punjab and Himachal Pradesh to carry out an aerial assessment of affected regions. And big news coming in from Nepal, where the social media ban has been lifted following protests that resulted in the death of 19 people. Well, as we told you, big news coming in from Nepal, where the social media ban has been lifted following protests that resulted in the death of 19 people. And Cabinet Minister Prithvi Subha Gurung said the government had rolled back the social media ban imposed last week. However, he added that the government has not regretted the decision to shut down social media platforms. Well, as we told you, the social media ban started on the 4th of September, and protesters were protesting because of the social media ban and digital repression. And Nepal has now lifted the social media ban after deadly protests which killed 19 people. In fact, over 347 people have been injured due to the protest, and protest against widespread corruption also happened, and the ban, of course. Also, the Home Minister took moral responsibility for the crackdown in Nepal. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has promised to form an investigation committee to look and probe into the matter. Also, Prime Minister Oli has declared that free treatment will be provided to the injured. In fact, the social media ban had come into effect on the 4th of September. Platforms were also targeted for not registering with the government, and hence the social media ban and digital repressive move which was taken by the government, which led to widespread protest. In fact, the decision came after 19 people were killed and over 347 injured in the Gen Z protest on Monday against widespread corruption and the ban. In fact, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has said he was deeply saddened by the mishap occurred in the Gen Z protest. He promised to form an investigation committee to scrutinize the incident which happened during the protest, and assured that the family of the deceased will be provided relief and will provide free treatment of the injured. In fact, the social media ban came into effect on the 4th of September, targeting platforms that had not even registered with the Nepal's government despite multiple warnings. This includes popular platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, X and YouTube. Now, the protesters had said that social media ban is a digitally repressive move that curtails the free speech and expression, and hence the protest. In fact, embassies of Australia, Finland, France, Japan, the Republic of Korea, the United Kingdom and the United States of America in Nepal have issued a joint statement over tensions in Nepal. On social media X, they said, and I quote, "We are deeply saddened by the violence seen in Kathmandu and elsewhere in Nepal today, including the tragic loss of life and injury during demonstrations. We extend our sincere condolences to the families of the victims, all those affected, and wish those injured a swift and full recovery. Our governments reaffirm our strong support for the universal rights of peaceful assembly and freedom of expression. We urge all parties to exercise maximum restraint, avoid further escalation, and ensure that these fundamental rights are protected," unquote. Also, the United Nations demanded a swift and transparent probe of the violence. UN Rights Office spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani expressed shock over killings and injury of the protesters.
We are shocked by the killings and injury of protesters in Nepal today and urge a prompt and transparent investigation. We have received several deeply worrying allegations of unnecessary or disproportionate use of force by security forces during protests organized by youth groups that were demonstrating against corruption and the recent government ban on social media platforms. We call on the authorities to respect and ensure the rights of freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of expression. All security forces must comply with the basic principles on the use of force and firearms by law enforcement officials. Nepal enjoys a lively democracy and active civic space, and dialogue is the best means to address young people's concerns. We urge reconsideration of measures to regulate social media to ensure that they comply with Nepal's human rights obligations.
And moving on, French Prime Minister Francois Bayrou lost a confidence vote in Parliament on Monday, ending his 9 months in office during a period of chaos in the country's parliament, the National Assembly. In a vote in the National Assembly, 364 deputies voted in favour of no confidence in the government, while just 194 voted expressing their confidence. Bayrou will submit his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday. Bayrou was the 4th Prime Minister in 2 years under President Emmanuel Macron, whose second term in office has been overshadowed by political instability. Bayrou became the first premier in the history of modern France to be ousted in a confidence vote rather than a no-confidence vote. And thousands rallied in Belgrade on Monday protesting police violence and demanding investigations into officers loyal to President Vučić and his party. Demonstrators marched through Belgrade, crossing the river Sava and stopping at the Palace of Justice, where they spilled red paint in front of the court's building and the police headquarters. Well, the rally followed a September 5th protest in Novi Sad, where police used tear gas and stun grenades, claiming they were attacked by masked individuals. Protesters accused the police of excessive force. Police are conducting an internal investigation into the claims. Vučić has faced months of protest over the Novi Sad railway station collapse that killed 16 people. Well, the protesters demanded early elections to oust him and his party. Well, Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre has secured a second term on Monday, while the populist right achieved its best ever election result. Norway's five-party left-wing bloc won a narrow majority of 87 of the 169 seats in parliament, while Progress secured 48 seats in the 169-seat parliament. The election was driven by rising living costs and international tensions in Ukraine and Gaza. Addressing the crowd, Støre thanked his supporters and said the victory showed it's possible for social democratic parties to win elections even with right-wing forces on the rise in Europe.
We had a goal in this election, and that was re-election and a continued Labour government. We are going to leave the country finances safely and responsibly so that people's everyday finances are safe and they can afford more.
Meanwhile, Norway's Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide said the foreign policy priorities would remain the same, as did Defence Minister Tore Sandvik.
When it comes to priorities, of course, as Foreign Minister, I will continue what we're doing in a strong support for Ukraine, a strong position on Israel-Palestine, trying to stop the war, get humanitarian aid in, but also continue to work for a political solution and to have a consistent policy of international law and full adherence to international law, which I think has been helpful in winning this election, because this is something people care about.
Well, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on Monday announced it was launching an immigration crackdown in Chicago dubbed Operation Midway Blitz. The operation has been launched in honor of Katie Ibrahim, a 20-year-old who was killed in January this year in a hit-and-run car crash with a Guatemalan man who was in the country illegally. The ICE operation will target the criminal illegal aliens who flocked to Chicago and Illinois. This latest announcement about Illinois follows a summer in which the Trump administration has targeted Democratic-led cities for increased immigration enforcement and National Guard deployments. It also follows an early announcement from DHS that said it was launching a new immigration enforcement effort in Massachusetts. Meanwhile, National Guard troops, some of them armed, are still patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. And on to Jammu and Kashmir now, where the encounter between security forces and the terrorists in South Kashmir's Kulgam district entered its second day with fresh exchange of fire reported since morning today. Officials said the operation, which was suspended last evening due to heavy rains and darkness, resumed early today despite adverse weather conditions. Now, so far, 2 terrorists have been killed, while 2 army personnel have also lost their lives. Also, security forces have sealed off the area within a 4-kilometer radius of the encounter site, restricting the movement of vehicles and locals to ensure that the trapped terrorist cannot escape. Now, according to the sources, at least 1 more terrorist is believed to be hiding in the nearby forest area. The operation is underway right now. Well, as we told you, in Jammu and Kashmir, the encounter between the security forces and the terrorist is having fresh exchange of fire since morning today. And the operation was suspended last night due to heavy rains and darkness, resumed early today despite adverse weather conditions. And now we have Salman Qazi joining us for more on the encounter on the phone line. Well, Salman, what is the situation right now? The firing has started since morning again. How is the situation?
The encounter had been suspended yesterday night, and it has now resumed again. The weather is still very bad, and it's still raining in the area, so it's very difficult to carry out this operation. And I'd like to remind you, viewers, that Last time an encounter in this same place that took around 11 days. It's almost in identical space. So it's a very difficult terrain. It's in heavily forested area, around 8 kilometers away from Kulgam. The encounter has been raging on since yesterday. There was no fresh exchange of fire during the night. However, as soon as the light there was a light in the morning, there has been exchange of fire, and security forces have resumed the operation again. And it's believed that there's still a presence of terrorists in the area, and there is an exchange of fire going on. Yesterday, 2 terrorists have been killed in this encounter, and 2 soldiers had also lost their life in this encounter. One of the killed terrorists has been identified as a Pakistani national, though the complete identification has not been revealed yet.
All right. Salman, at least one more terrorist we heard is hiding in the forest, and the adverse conditions of the weather. How is the operation continuing right now? Because the security forces have also sealed off quite an area there.
Yeah, the operation has been resumed. There's an exchange of fire. As per the standard procedures that security forces follow, the area has been sealed because to basically rule out that the trapped terrorists would escape the area, and there's a fresh exchange of the fire right now.
All right, Salman, thank you so much for all those details from there. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Mauritian Prime Minister Dr. Ramgoolam will begin his 8-day India visit today. Canadian producer Daniel Iron eyes a film collaboration with India. And Cricket Asia Cup 2025 to kick off in Abu Dhabi today, with Afghanistan facing Hong Kong in opener, India to begin campaign against Oman on Wednesday. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khuran, and moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the flood-affected states of Punjab and Himachal Pradesh on Tuesday to take stock of the situation. Prime Minister Modi will visit Pathankot and Gurdaspur in Punjab before proceeding to the flood-hit Himachal Pradesh. The Prime Minister will also conduct an aerial survey of the flood-affected areas. In Gurdaspur, Prime Minister will hold discussions with senior officials and chair a review meeting on the ground situation. He'll also interact with flood-affected persons as well as NDRF, SDRF and Aapada Mitra team. Well, in Himachal Pradesh, Prime Minister Modi will conduct an aerial survey of the disaster-affected areas. He will also meet officials and chair a high-level review meeting on the situation in Kangra. Well, the Prime Minister's direct review is aimed at closely monitoring relief and rehabilitation efforts to support the people of the two states during this difficult time. And stage is set for the vice presidential elections as the members of both the houses of Indian Parliament are to vote to elect the country's next vice president on Tuesday. Well, the NDA nominee and Maharashtra Governor C.P. Radhakrishnan will face opposition's nominee and former Supreme Court Judge B. Sudarshan Reddy in this election. Voting will be held by secret ballot at the new Parliament building. The voting will begin at 10 a.m. Indian Standard Time and will continue till 5 in the evening. Counting of votes will be held after 6 p.m. onwards. All right, now let's understand the process of the vice presidential election in India. Well, the vice president is elected by an electoral college consisting of members of both the houses of parliament. The election will be held under the system of proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote. Value of every vote cast in the vice presidential election has the same value, and presently the lower house has 542 members and the upper house has 239 members. Now, the electorate for the vice presidential election this time is 781 and the majority mark is at 391. And Mauritian Prime Minister Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramagulam will begin his 8-day India visit from today. This will be the first overseas bilateral visit of Prime Minister Dr. Ramagulam to India in his present term. He'd earlier visited India in May 2014 as the only non-SAARC leader invited to attend the swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. During his visit to India, Prime Minister Dr. Ramagulam will call on President Draupadi Murmu and hold discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to further the enhanced strategic partnership. Prime Minister Dr. Ramagulam will also visit Mumbai, Varanasi, Ayodhya and Tirupati. In Mumbai, he would be attending a business event. The visit of Prime Minister Dr. Ramagulam to India follows the visit of the Prime Minister to Mauritius in March 2025 will advance the strong and enduring bonds between India and Mauritius. Well, Daniel Aaron, a Canadian producer, wants to collaborate with India on filmmaking. He tells DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya in Toronto that his tryst with making films jointly with Indian talent is just one right project away. Take a listen.
Daniel Aaron, a prominent Canadian film and television producer who is known for having worked on acclaimed projects like Away From Her, is right here with us in Toronto, joining us now. As a producer, what are the opportunities that you see? Because Waves is something that goes beyond the film and television world into something like animation, gaming, etc.
I work solely in the area of film and television, so I think those other collaborations are great. They're not something that is an opportunity for me. However, I've worked around the world with many countries using many treaties, so it's of interest to me to work with India under the new treaty and to see it utilized more. There's obviously great connections between our two countries, both in talent and obviously we have a very large Indian population here. Your locations are incredible. You have a very large film industry, so it seems like a natural fit for our two countries to work together on film and television projects.
You have already worked on co-productions with various other countries, isn't it? And you mentioned about the co-production treaty between India as well as Canada. So going forward, do you have anything specific in mind? Are you really tuned into the Indian ecosystem?
Typically, when I have a project, I then do research into the system and find partners there. So the most important thing for me would be to find the right project and the right partner who I feel I can work with together and have a lot of trust with. I know you have great film producers in India, so if the right project came along that had Canadian elements as well, I would be really interested in working under the treaty.
So that was a Canadian producer who has not made a movie in India despite the Indo-Canadian co-production treaty, but wants to come and film in India and have a movie with Indian talent. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Toronto for DD India.
And on to some sports news now. The 2025 edition of the Asia Cup in T20 international format will start from Tuesday with a campaign opener between a rising Afghanistan side and Hong Kong at Abu Dhabi. The Afghan Battalion have made one previous appearance in a T20 international Asia Cup coming in 2022, where they were eliminated in the Super 4 stages with 2 wins and 3 losses so far in the Asia Cup history. Just like Afghanistan, Hong Kong have managed one previous appearance which came in 2022, where they failed to get out of the group stage, having lost both their games. India will begin the campaign against UAE. They then will take on arch rivals Pakistan in the marquee encounter on September 14th in Dubai. Their final group stage match will be against Oman at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.